Hi, y'all. This is Kristen Chenoweth.
Hi, I'm Gloria Stefan.
This is Sarah Bareilles.
Hi, I'm Patty Lapone.
This is Lin-Manuel Miranda. You're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
There's a cat over here. There's a cat over there. And the wrong one died. And the wrong one died. Welcome to The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of catastrophe. I'm your host, Mike Abrams, and today we have another amazing guest. We are working with the Perelman Performing Arts Center reimagined production of Cats called Cats, the Jellicle Ball to bring you a series of episodes during their run. I'm honored to have Shereen Pimentel here today because I was very curious how Jellylorum would work in the ballroom setting, and I loved how it happens in this one. So I can't wait to hear her experience. So welcome, Shereen. Thank you for joining me.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
I like having Jellylorums because usually Jellylorums are anti-Grizabella because your whole plot is centered around Gus, which is the most common choice. But before we start there, you are a theater person in The Lion King and been a lot of different things. I know you did Into the Woods at the City Center, and you've been a Broadway person. So what's your Cats knowledge coming into this particular production?
What's funny is I really didn't have much Cats knowledge.
None.
None. I remember when the revival was happening and I just got to college and someone in the dance department was in the Cats revival, but I never got to see it. And I had never listened to the recording. I had heard Memory a bunch, but that's really it. I never watched the movie because the CGI was a little interesting.
Yeah.
I'll use that word.
We'll say that's that movie. You never watched the 2019?
Yes, that movie.
Did you ever watch the 1998 movie? No.
Nope. Never had the VHS. Nothing. So truly, I walked into this project blind. But then I got cast and started listening to the recording, and I was like, "Oh wait, these songs are quite great." I don't understand what this is about, but these songs are fantastic. So now I'm interested to see what we're about to do. Yeah.
So you kind of came in, fresh perspective and treated it like everything else that you maybe don't know as much about and could go in and try to create from scratch. So I love hearing that. What did you, when you learned about Jellylorum, what was that beginning like? How much were you told? How much did you start creating? What did you do to prep for her character?
Yeah. I think my main focus was what the relationship is between Jellylorum and Gus, obviously. Just because, that's who she sings about. She ends up not even really offering herself up to go to the Heaviside Layer. She says, I think that Gus should go. And here's all the reasons why. And so I wanted to understand, who are these two people to each other? Why does she take care of this person? And also, I found that the way that the lyrics are written, they're quite sassy. They really are, just on the page. And I loved the idea that we landed on Jellylorum being, so sorry for everyone, spoiler alert, Jellylorum being Gus's granddaughter. But I loved the idea that they were super close in some way, and then we ended up with family. Just because it feels like a song where they're so close that she gets to say things that you wouldn't usually be able to say if you're just a caretaker or something. You have to be a caretaker who's a best friend, a granddaughter, or something to have that kind of relationship, which was something that I brought up in the audition. I remember doing the song and they were like, well, there are these sweet moments and she's really sweet. And I was like, yeah, I just have a question. Does she not try to push his buttons a little bit? And they were like, oh, yeah, that does make sense. And I was like, yeah, listen, read those lyrics on that page. That thing looked a little bit sassy. So that's where I was first approaching it from, was just kind of figuring out what that relationship was and then figuring out what her relationship is to everybody else in the space.
Yeah. Okay, I want to come back to that because I'm always fascinated by that. But the granddaughter is interesting because it's very universally accepted that it's a caretaker, just somebody that's really in charge of making sure Gus is okay given the age and, where Gus is in the stage of their life. But I've never thought about the family member aspect. And so it is interesting when you have that, like you said, the sassiness and kind of like a little bit of it's the love, but also the family love where you put that extra oomph into it. So I love that change. Like, I don't know if that's been done in the other performances or is at least discussed as much. So maybe that'll be a cool thing to bring into future versions of Cats, because it's, it's still going on all over the world.
Oh,
of
absolutely.
That relationship.
Yeah. And I think we got there as well because, talking about ballroom and like learning a lot from the people in the space who are a part of the ballroom scene, that is a huge piece of, you're in a house, you have a mother or a father, your sisters, you're this. And so it is actually very chosen family and very familial, that we really started to talk about, like, who knows each other and how do they know each other, and like, what is the relationship? Was anybody in someone's house before and now they're in a different house? Like, trying as much as we could, given the amount of time we had to be able to put up such a massive show, to figure out what the intricacies were of relationship. And I think that something that Junior had brought to the table was that he was bringing Jellylorum to the balls, and she was learning about ballroom culture through Gus. As Junior is such a icon in ballroom, kind of using that as his character for Gus, and obviously, which makes so much sense. It parallels perfectly. But then helping to then clarify the Jellylorum stuff inside of that, of like, Gus would be trying to bring his family, trying to integrate her into the scene and show her what all of this is about.
Yeah. I do think the parallel between ballroom, there's so much obviously that fits perfectly with it, but the family aspect with the Jellicle tribe also fits, of like, we talk a lot on this show. I've always before talked to people about, are you brother, sister? Are you related? And there is this, like, the sense of the traditional family you would think about, but then there's also the chosen family, which I think is where the ballroom and the Jellicles kind of merge, which is there's a house mother that might not be an actual blood relative, but still family. And that's kind of where I love the idea of that. So, you can be a granddaughter or chosen granddaughter or just a house granddaughter. And it's still kind of bringing the same energy and idea to it, which I think is expanding the actual definition of family, which I thought Jellicles did too, because I was like, at the end of the day, they're cats. They're all like, who knows which one is actually quote unquote mom when they're just cats.
Yeah.
What are the other relationships then that you thought through for Jellylorum?
Yeah. As we've built it, it's been actually really fun. We started to talk about Jellylorum has a crush on Demeter.
Okay.
Yeah. So like when Demeter walks body, I have a fun time being like, that's my girl. She's my girl. So we have stuff like that. I have like moments with Syllabub right now, and like Mungo Jerry and Rumple teaser, and then going into Old Deuteronomy. And we've kind of built something of like a friendship. I think that usually like Jellylorum is somebody who is like a mothering cat and is somebody who is like taking care of people. But I have Jellylorum, I think, feeling a little bit younger, so a little bit closer to like best friends and wanting to like take care of people who are younger than her as well, but still not a full like mother cat and taking care of like everyone. So there's a lot more friendships going on to me. Who else do I have? Mungo Jerry and Rumple teaser, for some reason, were just like a little band of cats that hang out together every so often. So I'm just having a great time becoming friends with each cat and figuring out like why we're close to each other. But those are the ones that I like always see around, and we have like developed little things in the show. And then with Grizabella, for me, we spoke a lot about the fact that in ballroom, they really would like welcome people back. If you had like a legend or something who goes away and then comes back to the scene, you would welcome them And if they need something, you would open your arms with empathy and stuff like that. So the way I currently have it is not a space of like shunning Grizabella or like trying to take anyone away from her, but more of trying to say like, I don't think she's going to join us, or I don't think she's going to do this. So we need to be okay with the fact that she might not want to be a part of what we're doing right now. So kind of like spinning it less of stay away from her and more of, I don't think she's going to come be with us. So I think we need to keep moving on with our lives.
Okay. That's super interesting too, because there is a couple of things you said there I like. One is that with a younger Jellylorum, you are, even though you were like thrown into having more responsibility at a young age, probably than you were ready for or wanted to, you still have this ability to go and kind of bop around with the kittens per se.
Yeah.
But I love the Grizabella piece too, because that's really interesting there's this protectiveness with Grizabella, because it's like something happened generally when she left, at least in the, the version that I'm used to of the stage version and the revival and everything that I've seen, is that she left and there's probably some animosity with Gus in the beginning because of whatever she did. He's kind of one of the elders and is there and is doing that. It doesn't feel as much of that in the ballroom. It seems like she left and she's ready to come back. And it's just, she's trying to make a comeback tour in the ballroom sense. And so it doesn't feel that Gus is as like anti-Grizabella, which also means that you are probably less anti-Grizabella. So I love kind of hearing the idea of like, oh, it's not that we're mad at her. It's that she's not coming back to our performance. So let's just keep going because we still got a show to put on.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I think that it's wonderful again, truly having people in the space who are currently in the ballroom scene, having them speak to us about what they think and like what they would experience in real time is super helpful to be able to put this storyline together, because that wouldn't have been my natural instinct. And so when they kind of spoke and had things to say about it, it was really eye-opening about what the scene is like and what they experience.
So I would love to continue hearing a little bit about that, because as someone who doesn't have as much of the ballroom knowledge, like you came in with the Broadway side, but you're working, especially as Jellylorum, with Junior. I mean, with a ballroom icon. So what was the like learning and experience like for you of that aspect of the world that you were bringing to this particular production?
Yeah, there was definitely a learning curve for me, especially in choreography. Like I've done some musical theater dancing, but like, when we're talking about like a little bit of hands performance going on, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, there was a lot to learn because it's just stuff I've never done before. But also it was just a learning curve of, I think that theater and ballroom function differently. I think that theater is a way to express yourself, but within a container and within a structure. Like we do a show 8 times a week. It's got to have some kind of structure so we can keep doing it. And as we were just saying before, like no matter what time of day, we have to do it in the day. We have to do it at night. Like it learns how to play within the sandbox, where I think the ballroom has a beautiful way of expressing itself outside the sandbox, and has a beautiful way of expressing itself through improv and through just truly like through self-expression, through however you want to express yourself. And so that was a little bit of a learning curve for me, where I'm used to the structure of it all. And there was a lot of play and figuring out what's going on in the space for yourself. But having Junior around was really wonderful. He had a lot of insight and had a lot of thought of how his character functioned in the space from top to bottom. That really helped to inform what I was doing. And all of that information came from who he is. I think that he was really going off of his own experience, who he is now and throughout his life. And that was really eye-opening to me, and helped me to create like what I was doing and why I was there. And I think it was actually one of the main reasons why I was like, oh, Jellylorum could be a kitten. Like Junior kept saying, like, everyone's a kitten. Like
Yeah.
he was like, I'm a cat. Like I am the older, like I am Gus. I am a legend. And I was like, yeah, like you are an icon. Like you are, it makes so much sense. Like it, I don't know, that just was really, really helpful in that space. But there was definitely a learning curve for me. I really stepped outside of my comfort zone for this production, and I've had a great time with it.
Yeah. I mean, it's been incredible to watch. And I just kind of think back to, like, you're talking a little bit about the differences, but there's also got to be some, just the hearing about the ballroom scene and culture and history from the legends of the history had to have been, just not even just how you put it on as your show, but just understanding of the two worlds blending is got to be an experience. Like I do imagine Gus in typical Gus Jr. in very Gus settings could sit down and tell you a story about the history in the old days. Like he is the most exact Gus you can get from an actual person. And
I will say he did. He did. We had many a moment of Junior doing exactly what we do in this show, where he's sitting in a chair and we're all just listening to what he's talking about. So it's so true. Being able to learn the history directly from the people who were a part of it was so beautiful. And also I think what's wonderful is like these two spaces, they are different, but they are also the same. We all have a common goal of being able to come together and like express ourselves and also tell stories. So I think that like it is a great combination when we got everything together and we've been able to perform the show for people, of like, it is a beautiful meld to give, I think, a wonderful gift to people right now.
We're going to take a quick break and then we'll be back for more of The Wrong Cat Died. So I want to ask you kind of a random question here for Jellylorum, but you've obviously done a lot of different roles. Do you ever think through how some of the previous characters that you've played and performances you've done relates into the storyline of your current Jellylorum?
Oh, wow. I have to think about that one. I'm going to say no, because I think that all the other roles I've played are nothing like Jellylorum. I don't think she is as like naive as a Maria. She is not sheltered like a Rapunzel, and she is not an Eva Perón. So she truly is in her own space for me, which I love. It's also the fact that all three of those roles that I just said, none of them go together either. I have really enjoyed having the fact that like every role that I've done, really, they exist in their own space. And I think that they have like obviously some kind of thread that matches, that makes it that I can play all of them. But they are all very, very different. But I would at least say that I'm back in the like soprano ingenue world for a little bit, since I played Ava last year. So back into like the Maria spaces. Vocally.
Yeah. I always find it really interesting of like, they're all independent roles and jobs and characters, but there's always sometimes maybe something you're able to pull from. But Joey's kind of story is unique in a sense. And I've always found Joey's story in the space of cats also very unique, because it's one of the few characters that essentially is saying, I'm not going to even put myself out as an option because I'm here supporting Gus and Gus's chance to go. And that's almost the opposite of everybody else who's like, here's why I should go. Let me 100%. Tell you all the reasons why it's me. And the selflessness of Jelly is very different.
Yeah, it totally is. I think that it was something that, I want to say like week 2 or something, someone had said like, everyone wants to go to the Heaviside Lair. And I went home and I was like, no, I don't. Yeah. I was like, Jellylorum doesn't want to go to the Heaviside Lair. What are you talking about? I want Gus to go. And then I came back to rehearsal and they were like, yeah. They were like, yes, you're right. And I was like, great. So it's so true. I think if there was any character that was going to match the roles that I had said before, it would be like a syllabub to Maria. Like, those I think totally have a lot of connection to them.
Yeah, I've tried to match cats to different shows anytime somebody's doing the crossover, and some line up perfectly, and others I'm like, there's not a single like character that fits this here at all.
Yeah,
but it's a really fun exercise because I do think the beauty of cats is that by having so many different characters with so widely different personalities, is there's generally somebody that kind of relates, and also why I think so many people like the show is there's probably one cat that you relate to as an individual, or that you see something of yourself or a family or a friend or someone in one of the characters, and it's relatable because of how vastly different they all are. And that I think is kind of part of the beauty of why the show has sustained so long, is that there is that variety.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think what I realized also when we were learning the music is it's actually really fun. I think that it's so easy to get wrapped up in oh my gosh, this is a interesting show with people in we obviously are not dressed as cats, but when you see the original, you're all dressed as cats. But the music is so fun, which I think people really, really are drawn to, which is just an in general thing about Andrew Lloyd Webber. His music is incredible. And so people just are so wrapped up in it.
So one of the other questions I want to ask you, since I recorded a lot with your cast early, before you're more than halfway through, I think at this point, or by the time this will come out, even closer, probably a month left by the time this episode will air.
Yeah.
You've had quite some guests, including Andrew Lloyd Webber, and I know Jacob Brent came and a bunch of others. So what has that experience been like for you, having the reception of, obviously everyone's loved the show. It's hard to get tickets and the reviews are amazing, but also all of the Lin-Manuels and all the celebrities that have kind of come to see it and have raved about it.
Yeah. It's been really exciting. Some of the people that have come, I don't know. So it's wonderful to meet them and to hear what they have to say. And some of them I do know. And so they're seeing me do something very different than what they're used to seeing me do. They obviously see me do a few high notes every so often, but as we said before, it's like a ballroom. I'm dancing quite a bit in this show, which is not my norm. And just playing a completely different character. So it's fun to see those people again and be able to talk to them about it. I think that everyone who's coming is really enjoying the show and really enjoying this spin that we're putting on cats, and yet also we have the score. There are ballroom beats. You saw it. There are ballroom beats, but it is cat. And
very true to the sense too, which was really not what I was expecting. Honestly, I was expecting more of it, and it's no, this is cats, but
it's
with
cats.
Some added layers and some choreography changes, obviously, but it is cats.
Yeah, and so it's been wonderful to have so many great celebrities and also people in all different sectors. So we had Sasha Velour come and we had Anthony Rapp, but then we also have people from the House of LaBeija. We have even ballroom people who are coming who are absolutely iconic. And no matter if they're from theater, television, ballroom, people are really enjoying the show and also appreciating what is happening on the stage. So it's been really great to see that reception and have people, enjoy what we're doing.
It's fun in the crowd too, because you can see it's also a mix of I came for cats, I came for the ballroom, I came because everyone's talking about it. There is a wide range in the crowd too. Are you relentlessly picking on your friends when they're in the cabaret seats or people if you have the opportunity?
If I can see them, sometimes. My favorite show was I got to the cabaret table that I sit on at the beginning of Jellicle Song. and I turned around and it was somebody I knew. And I was like, wonderful. And so I just get to like play this entire song to you because this is my spot usually for this entire song. So that's what I love, that like people just happen to be in my section. And so I get to like mess with them a little bit. But I do try to stay true to what we're doing as much as I can. But yeah, it is fun. It's nice having the theater in the way that it is because no one can hide. We can see everybody. Yeah. So we get to really not make sure, but like we get to have everyone be included and have special moments with people.
Yeah, I was at the front center cabaret table, and they like warn you when you come in if you're at the table, being like, anything on the table is fair game. They're like, just be prepared. And I think it was still early enough on that you all were feeling it out and not like completely messing with people. But I'm like, when I come back, I'm like, do I want to sit that close again? Because like Sydney told me he's gonna terrorize me if he sees me in the theater. So it's like, it'll be kind of fun to have that, but also I'm like, maybe I'll sit up top and just admire from afar.
Yeah, I know. I do tell people, I think it's like have one experience of like a bird's eye view and have one experience inside the whole thing. But yeah, no, yesterday during the show, I had two people at my cabaret table and they had their drinks on the table. And so instead of doing choreography, I'm like, take your drink. I don't want to spill this. Like, I'm about to dance all on this table. But yeah, people are doing things. I've seen people like pick up someone's fan and like play with it in the show and stuff. We are definitely interacting with everyone.
Well, the beginning of pre-COVID, at least, beginning of the show started with the cats in the audience, and I always said scaring the hell out of the audience members because it's like green eyes are flashing at you. But there is that element of the audience interaction, and Tugger used to be able to come out in the crowd and do some stuff. So there is this, like, the whole idea of the junkyard was that you are being invited into the setting and you're lucky to be there, but you're there. And so they did interact with you a lot. And so I like this same idea, is like, it's got the cabaret tables, there's front row, like you are part of the show. I did see there was a lot happening behind me that at times I'm like, what's going on over here?
Happening?
Like I think at one point I turned around and Buster Jones was like pouring drinks for people at a bar, and I'm like, what's going on? So that's kind of where I want stuff in front of me next time.
Oh yeah, we've got moments all over the place. So you are 100% right. It's like, it is good to see it from afar because then you can see everything that's going on. But yes, I am one of the people back at that bar. Buster is definitely pouring shots for a bunch of us over there, and we are having a grand old time. Someone has like racked up a big tab with Buster. Like, we've got stories.
Okay. So what's happening there? What's happening there?
It's like Mungo Jerry has racked up like a huge tab with Buster. It's after Skimble Shanks. So Skimble and Rumpelteazer get to go over there and have their shots for Rumpelteazer winning and like Skimble Shanks being okay that she lost. We have a grand time back there.
I love it. I do think like that was a fun part too, because everyone that was sitting right there is like engaged in that moment, and there's still other stuff happening on the catwalk, and that's where like it's a family of all kinds of things happening.
Yeah, and we spent a lot of time in rehearsal kind of talking about, okay, there are going to be people here. You can't step here. You could step here. You could do this here. You could trying to figure out what kind of interactions we might be able to have, but without the people there, Yeah. And trying to figure out also sightlines. There are so many people in the banquettes that we stand on the side of the runway, but we want y'all to still be able to see what's happening on the catwalk. So there's a lot of the times that we're kneeling down, we're like laying on top of the runway to try to mess with those sight lines. So it was a big part of rehearsal. It was figuring that stuff out.
It is incredible when you think about like the finished product of all the different stuff that goes into that. And I know I love the PAC, and the social media team has done a lot of sharing some of it, which has been so phenomenal to kind of see a little behind the scenes. Yeah. But just everything from the the wigs to the costumes to the spacing to, I think, there's a table that you are sitting at. So everything is just so perfectly orchestrated, which took a lot of time. And as you said in the beginning, had to be done pretty quickly because it is a limited run. Like there's a shorter period of time versus something you're setting up without a confirmed end date.
Yeah. And every show you rehearse that thing for 4 weeks. It's so fast. But then sometimes you'll have a longer preview process or a longer tech process. But, with a shorter run, those things go a lot faster. So any Andrew Lloyd Webber show you want to mount, like it's an undertaking to mount it in a short amount of time. But I think that we landed in such a great place. And as you said, those wigs and costumes, Queen and Nakia, they popped off. Everyone looked incredible. I remember that tech process of just outfit after outfit and wig after wig coming out and being blown away.
And it's such an important piece too, because that was one of the biggest changes, is not being in the cat costume.
Yeah.
And it does not feel like it's like I was not worried about it, but I thought it was like, this is going to be different.
Yeah.
And I was like, how do you make sure you identify which cat's which? And how do you, like, for the cats people know? And I'm like, oh, well, the wig is perfectly the same as the hair color for what the cat would be. And like, you just have, like, it's very clear who's who. And that was like, that is a skill that they were able to do. And what they were able to put together to still, again, make it so that the cats people and that it stays true-ish to the show while still providing a whole new angle to it.
Yeah, and they really did work on, like, if it wasn't the same exact like color as like their cat's color, then like we had a color palette. Like I have blue and pink, Bombalurina's yellow, and so we all have like our color to try to associate with that person as they go through the show. Yeah.
Okay, let's do some rapid fire.
Yeah.
So if you could perform one night as any of the cats, whether it's in your male, female vocal range, whatever, just if you could go on one night, whose track do you want to do?
Oh, Monkey Strap.
Okay, DJ the whole thing.
I just want to be Dudney. Dudney's incredible. He's just amazing. But Monkey Strap has so much fun, at least from my view. He just, like, the master of ceremonies. He's got everything moving along. Yeah.
I just wish I could do the bows. What he does at the bows. I'm like, after the whole show to come in for it's like 6-7 minutes straight of it. I was like, that is an impressive.
I know, incredible.
feat.
And we were in rehearsal, and he was working on those, and like he would talk to different people. What do you think about this? Do you have any ideas about like what you want your chant to be? Like he came up with all those chants, and he's wild. It's so great.
Wow. Who are your favorite and least favorite cats from a personality side? Like, who would you vibe with and who would bug you?
Who would I vibe with? Well, I currently vibe with Syllabub. I love Syllabub. She's the softest girl. And I just absolutely love. And then who would I not vibe with? I'm trying to think. Wait, no. Maybe Cassandra.
Okay.
Maybe Cassandra.
I could see that.
I think because she's like the newest of the new kittens, and she even pushes our 007s over. And she's so competitive. I think maybe
she has an energy like none other in that first act. So I could see that.
But I think I'd love Skimbleshanks. That's the funny part.
Yeah. I just love Emma. That's the key.
Yeah, exactly.
Favorite song from the show?
Oh, Skimbleshanks, the railway cat.
Skimbleshanks, great. I've been trying to figure out houses. So is Jellylorum in a house? And if so, what is the house? And if not, what would your house be? Okay.
So Jellylorum is technically not in a house.
Okay.
But I think if she was in a house, it would probably be whatever Gus's house is.
Yeah.
We haven't spoken about what Gus's house would have been.
And Gus definitely has a house.
Gus definitely has a house. And so if she was in a house, that's her house. because there's no way she's going anywhere else. Or I think she would end up in the House of McCavity just because she has a crush on Demeter.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So just follows in to have some time with Demeter. That's interesting. You got to figure out Gus's house. I think that needs to be talked about with your cast. Like, he clearly has a house.
He definitely does. We just never got to talk about it. We got to talk about it.
I think you need to figure that out. Let me know if you solve that. I think it's key. Yeah. Okay, most important question, and I'm hopeful as a Jellylorum, but I've argued at length. I don't think Grizabella is the right Jellicle choice. I think it's much harder to argue that in your production. Yes. But I want to hear who your Jellicle choice is and why.
Yes. My Jellicle choice is Gus. My Jellicle choice is Gus. Okay? He has lived such a prolific life. He deserves to ascend to the Heaviside layer. Look at all that he did, okay? He once understudied Dick Whittington's cat. He was the Fiend of the Fell. Okay? He should go to the Heaviside lair, though we love Grizabella. We love her. Next year. She can be the Jellicle choice next year.
Next year. I just need to have this show just be only interviewing Jellylorums, and I would have my way. Because I don't think I have a single Jellylorum that's not picked Gus. And I think Gus, I'm trying to get Gus over Grizabella. He's trailing a little bit right now in the rankings. And again, interviewing your production has not helped because Junior does not feel ready to go. Junior comes out there and I'm like, Junior's definitely not ready to go. He is living in such a great life out there. So I'm like, this is not helping my cause. But I'm glad that you're still picking Gus and a non-Grizabella vote. So I'm not even going to ask any more questions about it. We're just going to agree.
Also, maybe it's that I just want to keep Grizabella with us.
I like that angle. That was my belief is that it's not that Grizabella doesn't deserve her redemption story and being welcomed back to the tribe. It's that she doesn't need to be sacrificed immediately after that. Like, let's let her spend some time with the family now.
Yeah, let her spend one more year with us.
Yeah, that's my thing. And then she can go next year because Gus will go. She's the next year's choice. Well, this has been so fun. How can people stay in touch with you on social media and everything else you're working on?
Yeah. Well, my social media is just Shereen Pimentel, first and last name. And also I have a website, ShereenPimentel.com, and they can find me there.
We will link both so you can find everything there. So thank you so much for coming on. This has been so fun.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Amazing. And thanks everyone else for listening to this episode of The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. To follow along, you could subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any else listen to podcasts. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at The Wrong Cat Died, or check our website, thewrongcatdied.com.